Hello guys, in this video we will be learning about variables which can store many values, arrays and lists. So what are arrays? Arrays are variables which can store multiple different values in a variable. Arrays are also fixed size and resizing them is very costly, so it's best used when we know the exact number of values array will be holding. In the provided example, we can see declaration of three separate int variables. Imagine a scenario where we would need to declare 100 of such variables just to store information. And what if every time we ran the application, we would need to work with different amounts of numbers? With arrays, we can keep everything clean and organized. In the bottom, we can see how we declare an array of the same three ints we had in the top, and we only need one variable to do it. Both scenarios will provide us with three values, though arrays keep it so much better. To declare an array, we first indicate the type of the array. In our case, we know that we will store integers, so we type int. Then we need to add square brackets after the type, which indicates to the compiler that this variable will be an array of this declared type. After that, we follow up with variable name, which in our case is called numbers. And lastly, we assign values to the array by typing in equal sign as usual, and then we add curly brackets with values inside of them separated by commas. What are lists? Lists, like arrays, can store multiple values. Though there are multiple differences between them, one of the bigger differences is that lists can have their elements swapped in and out on runtime without any performance hits, and that it has great interface for us to do these operations. In the example, we have a declared list of the same integers we had in our previous example, just that in this example we are adding more numbers as our compiler goes through other lines with the method called add, as well as we remove 3 from our list at the end of our code block by using method called remove. To declare a list, we first need to type keyword list with lesser and greater signs following it. Inside the signs, we have to indicate what variable type will our list contain. In our example, we tell the compiler that this list will be made from integers. Then we give our variable a name followed by an assignment. To assign values to a list, we first need to initialize the list by using keyword new, since list is a reference type. After keyword new, we type in the type of the variable, which in our case is list of ints, and we open brackets to finish initialization. And lastly, we follow with curly brackets in which we can put values which will be stored in the list. We can also use keyword var before variable name if we want to make code readability a little bit better. With all of this, we can continue on with the tutorial. Alright guys, so we will be introducing a lot of new concepts in this tutorial. We will also refactor our current code to, well, basically obey the real blackjack rules. One of the things that we need to do when we want to declare arrays, like I think I've mentioned in the past tutorials, is just type in the type of the array that you want. Basically, we want an array of strings. We want a collection of strings. In this case, we just type in string, and when we add these square brackets, we tell the computer that this will be a collection of something, basically an array of something. In this case, a collection or an array of strings. I won't say collection because there is a different data type that we can actually use, which is called a collection. And if we go like this, we can actually see that we can add something like that. So yeah, from now on we will call this arrays, but I use word collections to make it a bit easier. So I will be creating two, one for playing cards and the other one for playing card suits. So I will be back at you in a couple of minutes. I'll speed this up. Okay, now that we're back, we can proceed with another thing that we really need to change, and that a thing that I don't really like is that currently when we're running our application, we don't have easy access to this variable. If we were using object-oriented programming and dependency injection, we would be able to create different cases by registering stuff outside of this file, and we would be able to inject everything. But for our current case, we can just add this variable over here, and then we should rename this one because is game running makes a lot more sense. To rename something, just click on it, click Control plus RR, and then you just type in the name that you want and press apply. This will change every dependency for that variable, just like in this case. Another thing that I'm not really fond of is that we have this big chunk of code which is pretty much responsible of handling our game functionality. So we can refactor it and turn it into a method. Just click Control plus dot and press extract a method. And then type in handle game. This will create us a new method like always, and we will be able to work with it. Then we can proceed with refactoring this part because we already did it with all the other options that we had. Control plus dot, extract a method, and we can name handle new round since we will be making functionality of running a new round on every typed in one. One of the main things that we really need to change and update is how our current hit card method works. Like now we can only play with pretty much defined number of cards, first, second, third, and we can't go with fourth, fifth, and so on. So we can just click F12 on hit card. We will move to this method and we will be making a lot more new changes. Right now we will be able to even use our array. So yeah, we can remove this part because we won't need it anymore. We can first of all add card suits for our drawing. So basically how we are accessing an array. To access an array, you have to type in the array name, then you add square brackets, and after that, inside the square brackets, you need to indicate which index or the number of the element it should show you. So if, let's say, we wrote 0, remember that arrays are counted from 0. If we type in 0, we would access this one. If we typed in 2, 0, 1, 2, we would get to this one, 2 crosses. So knowing that, we can make assumptions that we would be able to generate a number that would access some random card suit for us. In this case, we have the same method that we used to use, which generates a random new number, and we can just type in card suits dot length. So this will work very simple. Basically, what we are doing, we are making the random generator to generate an integer, a number which would go up to card suit's length. This part will always go from 0 to 3, since the last number is not included and a 0 is included. You should keep in mind when you're using it. So you could actually test it out if you want. You can just type in console write line and add this method, and check what it prints out on each iteration. Then we will also need another thing which is called playing card index, which should have the index of the card that we are going to draw. I'm using this separately from just using same variable because we will need to get the scoring from this variable. We won't be able to retrieve the scoring from the array itself. And in here we want to access, well, get the playing card that we actually drew. And we can do that by just typing in the name of the array, opening square brackets, and inside of them just adding this part. Maybe it's even simpler to read like this. Then we will need in card score as a variable which will store the scoring for us. And after that, we will need to add, um, well, handle ace card cases, which we will create a different new method, which will handle cases when a 1 or 11 should turn itself into a 1. So yeah, when you'll see it, it will be easier for you to understand. As of now, we can just type in that when we get an ace, remember we're checking which index is currently drawn, and 0 means that it's playing cards 0, so the first element, an ace. And in here we can just append it with 11, because we know that an ace at first will be amounted to 11. Then we can do pretty much the same thing with the second condition and make it less than 9. And then add a code block for it, which will look similar to this one. We can just change this part, +1. Thank you for listening. In part 2, we will refactor our game so we would be able to draw as many cards as we want, as well as obey the true rules of blackjack. Till then, have fun and have a wonderful developer journey.